Hello, my name is Irina. I've been traveling around Jamaica for the last 6 years with a goal to explore everything there is to see on the island. And I've realized that getting around Jamaica on a budget requires proper trip planning. One of the most important aspects is public transport in Jamaica. Most tourists don't know how it works, and it's not like there is a video that explains transport system in Jamaica. Well, there hasn't been one until now. We're going to look at everything from private taxis, route taxis, public buses, and even hitchhiking. But first, let me introduce you to my friend.
Hello, Derrick.
Hi!
Hey, man. Yeah, I'm good. Respect, man.
Yeah, man. How's everything?
Yeah, everything good, man.
How you, man? No problem.
Derrick happens to be not just a great driver, but also one of the best guides, originally from Montego Bay, Jamaica. I personally learned a lot from Derrick about the local life, so I asked him to be co-host for this video, and he kindly agreed.
First, what we're going to talk about is the taxi system in Jamaica. We have different types of taxis, and they kind of run different from other places in the world. We have the private taxis that is provided mostly for the visitors, for tourists. We have the route taxis that provided mostly for locals, and they also use them as a charter taxi, the same route taxis.
What's the correct pronunciation? Route taxi or route taxi?
Well, route.
You call it route taxi in
Yeah,
Jamaica?
we call it route. But because of the way we speak, some people say route.
Oh, okay.
So you can, the English is route.
I call it route taxi.
Yeah, it depends on how you want to pronounce it. But a route taxi is a regular car. It's a smaller vehicle, and they operate just like the big public buses. The drivers are registered, and they are given a special route. If they're given a route from Montego Bay to, let's say, Falmouth, they're not supposed to operate in a different area. That is why it's called a route taxi. But you can take side roads. You can bring people to their house. Most taxis do that. They come off the main, and just to make something extra, they drop people off to their house. But they're still in their route. It's still the area that they're in. Anywhere you stand on the road where there's a pull-off, the taxi will stop and get you. That's how it operates. Sometimes you don't even have to stop them. When they're coming, they beep. They're asking you. They're sending you a signal to know if you need a taxi. So there's no special places where you have to stand. As long as there's a pull-off for them to pull off and pick you up, you can stand anywhere along the roadside. The first thing you're looking for is a red plate, and that's the only way you'll see them coming from far. But as they reach to you, you will see on the side there's a checker streak, and also they have the name of the route that they run. So let's say you're going from Montego Bay to Falmouth, and there's one says Greenwood. You know that that's not the one for you because it's only going to Greenwood. So you're looking at the name of where they're going, and that's how you know which ones to take. Most of the taxis, they go to a park. If you are in Montego Bay and you don't know, you could ask a local, where is the taxis? It's one price for a road taxi. It doesn't matter if you're a visitor or you're a local traveling on the taxi, they must have to charge you one price. Yeah, it's set by the government, and it all depends on different routes of different price. It can range from, if you're using American dollars, from $1 American to $2 American. The more trips they make is the more money they make. So sometimes they speed a lot. They drive very fast just to cover a lot of ground, just to make more money. So that is one of the negative sides. The second one is the more people they put is the more money. So sometimes they go overboard and they pack the cars, packed like sardines. You should not go into a car that is overpacked.
Yeah, it's like, it's 4 people in the back and a few at the front. So I don't know. I don't know how to use every taxi.
Sometimes people get numbers for drivers, but you could go on the street and tell a driver that you want to go somewhere, and you're going to charter them. So they will charge you one price, and they won't bring anyone else. It's just you alone they're going to bring. And if they're going out of their route, they have to have a chartered sign on their dashboard to show that they're not operating as a taxi in that area.
Some tourists are asking if it's safe to use route taxis, but they're usually worried because of the wrong reasons, like what if I get robbed or something? No, route taxis are a form of public transport, and the only thing that makes route taxis scary is the driving style. You see, route taxi drivers, even though very experienced, they do their best to drive as fast as possible. Because just like Derrick said, the faster they go, the more passengers they carry. This is the only way for them to earn more. This kind of driving is not safe. But route taxis are used by locals all the time, and there is no problem if tourists do the same. But it all depends on your level of comfort and whether you care about insurance coverage. In general, however, for tourists who are traveling on a tight budget, a route taxi can be a good option. They're very cheap and perfect for short distance travel when you need to go from one part of the town to another. But what if you need to travel between towns?
There's a long-distance local travel in Jamaica. There are minibus that runs from Montego Bay to Ocho Rios or from Montego Bay to Kingston. This is how the locals travel in long distance. They use them because they're cheaper than the express buses. The smaller cars, they run in shorter distance. The minibus, they run in longer distance. So the same thing applies to them, just like the road taxi. A lot of people together, some of them, they drive fast, just the same. There's no special schedule right through the day. Whatever time you want to go, they're always there.
Route taxi minibuses are really cheap. The price depends on the route, but it's somewhere between $3 to $6 per person. It's great, but keep in mind, a route bus would sit there waiting for it to fill up, which can take like 40 minutes. Then, if you have luggage, you might have to pay extra, as if for an extra person. There might be no direct route buses to where you are going, so you have to change a few of them, which would increase your cost of travel and make you lose a lot of time. This is why for long-distance travel, it's often easier to use Knutsford Express service. If you've been to Britain, there is a coach service called National Express. Well, Knutsford Express in Jamaica is very similar to this. I mean comfort, bathroom on board, enough room for luggage, and so on. I use this service regularly if I need to go on a long trip, like from Montego Bay to Port Antonio. And guys, this is the best way to move between North Coast and Kingston. It's budget friendly, the tickets cost from $15 to $25 per person one way, excellent drivers, and runs mostly on time. The schedule is convenient. Brilliant.
For your added comfort, you have a restroom on board to the middle of the bus to your right. The seats are also reclinable. But when reclining, please be careful of persons sitting behind you. You also have some outlets on board if you wish to charge any device you have.
The only downside I can see is that this bus cannot make a stop on the way, and it only goes from station to station, so you have to arrange some other transport to get from the station to accommodation or wherever your final destination is.
Official taxi, that's the correct name in tourism for the visitors. There's a special registration that you have to do through Tourist Board to operate in tourism. So these taxis are more expensive, it comes with higher demands. All of them have a red plate, and you can know them because all of them must have the name of the taxi on the front and also on the back. So you will know which one, JUTA, JCAL or MAXI. So JUTA stands for Jamaica Union of Travelers Association. It's like a club, so it's all private individuals that registered in this company. JUTA doesn't own all the vehicles, it's all private guys owns it and join this club. All of them must have a logo or a sign that says Jamaica Tourist Board. JUTA drivers, MAXI or JCAL, these companies, they have to use nice vehicles. The cars has to be 5 years old and under. You have to have a newer or more decent vehicle, and most of them that we use are Toyotas, Nissan, these type of vehicles. Very expensive vehicles. AC, they come with a public liability insurance, coverage for the guests. It's different from the road taxi. The drivers that drive these private vehicles, they're more cautious, tend to drive a lot more slower. Most of the times when we take tourists out, we do tours. We're also drivers, but we're also guides. We're touring, so we drive slow and we have to be highlighting places with these guests. So we take extra special cautious with these guests when we drive. There's no set price when it comes to this, but one thing I know, it's more expensive than the local taxi. I'll give you an idea. If you're going from, let's say, Montego Bay to Ocho Rios, to Duns River Falls, okay, and back, some drivers will say, okay, it's $200 for that trip. Now, maybe you can come to an agreement to go lower, whatever the agreement is. For that $200, it comprises a lot of stuff. So they do a lot of stops, they take you here, there, show you a lot of places with that money. So it works out very good.
I saw posts on TripAdvisor by tourists who thought they were being ripped off when charged $200 for a private day trip from Montego Bay to Ocho Rios. And I also saw local people who thought if they go into JUTA business, they would be making $200 a day. But of course, it doesn't work that way.
Yes. You see, it's the licensing, the maintenance of the vehicle, fuel, and so we have to pay loans back for it, and it's very expensive. So that is one of the reasons why it's more expensive than the route taxis. This vehicle costs $60,000 US. By the time you pay off it, it's time to buy a new vehicle. It's very expensive for sure, Irina. Very expensive.
The only way when JUTA drivers make some really good money is if they have day trips every single day with like 15 guests on board. All I'm saying is if you decide to use an official taxi service and the driver proves to be really good, don't forget to leave a tip. How to use Uber in Jamaica?
No, we don't have. We have? Well, Uber is we don't have the Uber system in Jamaica.
The reasons why will become apparent with this video in a few minutes. But there is a company that is owned by a Jamaican gentleman that is currently developing an app called Arrive. This app would allow tourists get these official taxis that we've just talked about anywhere in Jamaica with just a few clicks. This project is at the very beginning. I hope it will get bigger very soon. So I will leave the links to the app both for tourists and the official taxi drivers who want to join this service. Now let's look at some reasons why Jamaican transportation infrastructure is so different when compared to North America or Western Europe. Jamaica is a mountainous country, and mountains are really steep. To make things even more exciting, a lot of people live in smaller communities, spread out across the hills and mountains. So you might look at the map and this house is right next to the other house, but there is a huge gap between them. By looking on Google Maps, you think it's 5 minutes walk, but the reality, it's more like 40 minutes walk. The second point is population density. There are areas like Kingston or Spanish Town with high population density, but anywhere else you go, it wouldn't be the case. Even in Montego Bay, the town has about 100,000 people, but most of them live in the outskirts of Montego Bay, spread out all over the place. And the third and most important is the address.
In Jamaica, the address system is different from overseas. Now, we don't use addresses like numbers or box. We use post office. So it's the community that you're in, that where your mail is gonna go to. So most of the address comes on post office. So if you're in Rose Hall, it's Rose Hall post office. That's how the address system works in Jamaica.
For example, here the Airbnbs are managed for my Jamaican friends. The house has no number, the road has no name, so the address would look like this: Calypso Villa, Lilliput, Montego Bay. That is it. And if it was the same for everyone, okay, but no, other places do have an address.
In the corporate area, like in Kingston, you find mostly street numbers and some homes have their numbers and things like that. But most of the Airbnb places in, more local areas, more smaller communities, do not have any address.
By the way, this situation with addresses is common not only in Jamaica, but in many countries. And I will go into this in a separate video about property. But for now, you might be wondering, okay, no address, so what? Well, you cannot apply this standard taxi service. Hello, madam, you've reached the fancy taxi service. Can I have your address, please? No. This is why Jamaicans simply came up with a different solution. Every host or receptionist will have a number for a reliable, qualified driver who they work with and who knows where the place is. But there is no one number to call for a taxi service outside of Kingston and St. Andrew area. I also want to draw your attention. How do you even build a public transport system to cover all of these, small communities spread out all over the place? You would need thousands of buses with hundreds of unique routes going into all of these directions. But of course, because of low population density, it would simply fail financially. However, Jamaicans did find a way how to sort it out, and this was done with the concept of a route taxi that Derrick has already told you about. Are there any alternatives? Yes.
Well, the yellow buses are the public buses, but you will find most of these buses in Kingston. These buses are in Montego Bay area or St. James, but you will only see one bus every hour. So that's why they have to use a lot of the smaller vehicle to do it. If you're standing on the road waiting for a driver and the yellow bus comes, then you're in luck. But for you to go and wait on it, it's a no-no.
Can you do hitchhiking in Jamaica and travel for free? Yes, but only in certain areas, like in rural communities far from touristic places or in areas with limited route taxis. It would usually be drivers with a pickup truck who can give you a lift. Here is an example of my husband and I doing hitchhiking in Blue Mountains on the way to Kingston. And we were not alone. Locals were joining us. It was an exceptionally enjoyable ride with gorgeous scenery and fresh air. You can surely leave something for the driver, but you don't have to. Like when I drive a pickup truck in Jamaica and I see fishermen walking along the highway, I will always give them a lift because, they have spare guns, lots of fish. They can't get into a route taxi. So if you have a pickup truck, you should do the same. You should just stop and give them a lift.
Yeah. JCAL, sir. Okay. Yeah.
So there are aspects of hitchhiking culture in Jamaica. It's just that they are not developed and not encouraged. I did hitchhiking in Malaysia, in Egypt, in South Africa, in my home country, Ukraine. Jamaica really is no different, except that many local people here are not aware that hitchhikers exist who are foreigners. I'll cover more in my Backpacker's Guide to Jamaica video that is coming up soon. So don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss it. And by the way, if you wish to book trips or transfers with Derrick, please see the link in the description down below. Whichever way you choose to travel around Jamaica, we hope you have a fantastic experience. Don't forget to check our Jamaica Video Guide playlist for some awesome places to see. Thank you so much, Derrick. It's a pleasure. Thank you for agreeing for this interview. It's a pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine. No problem, man. One love.